Now, who'd be a humble bumblebee? The insect, which is already under threat, could have to fight off a new predator heading for our shores. One Asian hornet can kill up to 40 honeybees a day, and 6 people in France have died after being stung. Sky's Siobhan Robbins reports.
These British bees have no idea a fatal threat is moving closer. A predator is in France and could soon cross the Channel. This is the Asian hornet, a precise killer with a taste for honeybees.
When bees are out foraging, you'll find that the hornets will lurk around the front of the hive and try and bring down foragers as they come back to the hive. They then, having got them down on the ground, they paralyse them, and they will then cart them off to their own nests, where they'll use them for feed for their own larvae.
Asian hornet queens can grow up to 3 centimetres long. Their bodies are dark brown or black with a fine yellow band. These are effective hunters. Their stings are up to 1/4 of an inch long and don't have barbs, meaning they can sting numerous times. They can kill up to 40 honeybees a day, cutting off their heads with their strong jaws and pulling off their wings.
Next to our native hornet, this actually doesn't look that scary. You can see the Asian one is a lot smaller, but the problem is they hunt in packs and they have a fierce appetite for honeybees, a population which is already under threat in Britain.
So here we've got our culprit, the Asian hornet, Vespa velutina.
This hornet's sting has killed 6 people in France, but experts say we shouldn't worry.
In terms of their sting, it's no worse than any other hornet. So people, if you're going to suffer from an anaphylactic shock, you're going to suffer from an anaphylactic shock, and it's just as likely from an Asian hornet as from a native British hornet.
So far, our honeybees are safe. No Asian hornets have been seen in the UK. Plans are in place to eradicate them if they do appear, and experts are on the lookout.
We do need to be concerned that they might well come. They have spread quite rapidly through France, and last year they arrived, were reported in Belgium for the first time, and there have also been reports of a spread southwards into Spain and into northern Portugal. But we don't know whether they will come. I think it's a better than even money chance that they will in the next few years.
So it seems it may only be a matter of time before this Asian predator launches its attack on the UK's bees. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News.
Well, Matt Shardlow, the Chief Executive Officer of Insect Conservation Trust Buglife, joins me now. Thank you for coming in. How concerned are you about these?
Well, it's a very worrying species, the Asian hornet. It's big and it's aggressive and it attacks honeybees and also the mason bees and the bumblebees and all sorts of other bees. So it's definitely something we don't want to get to Britain.
Do we do anything about it not getting to Britain?
Well, the obvious thing to do would be to restrict the international trade in pot plants. If you go somewhere like Australia or New Zealand, they won't tolerate you having a bit of dirt on your shoe, let alone bringing in a pot full of earth and plants. And in the UK, we have a very laissez-faire attitude, import very large numbers of pot plants into the country, and each one of those brings with it a pest risk, and this Asian hornet is one of the things that we may well end up bringing in pot plants.
So is there any change on the horizon in terms of legislation of the free movement of things like pot plants, fruit as well?
Well, you may remember the ash dieback disease that came about last year, and there's a lot of concern that the trade in trees in pot plants was part of the reason why these diseases are spreading so quickly around Europe and into Britain. There's been a new bit of legislation, a new regulation at European level to control invasive species when they get into countries, and I think people are getting more aware of the costs both to biodiversity but also to health of gardens and food production that allowing pests to travel around the world is having. So we're hopeful that the government is now alert to this increasing risk that we're facing and will perhaps take action to come down on pot plant trade, international pot plant trade, to restrict those sources.
I mean, it's interesting with this that the impact on bugs is pretty big, but that it's been responsible for killing humans as well.
Yeah, so as Gavin said in the report, it's a wasp, and you have to be careful of wasps. They defend their nests with some vigour. And if you do disturb them in a nest, you're best to get well away as fast as possible. Certainly if people encounter hornets or wasp nests, do not tackle them yourselves. It's an expert job to deal with them. And it's when they feel attacked and feel under attack by people around their nests, that's where the risk really comes in.
Okay, I mean, I know it would be difficult to predict, Matt, but would you envisage that this time next year they will have arrived?
Well, they've arrived in France in 2004 and have spread and established themselves very solidly in the south of France. So they are still spreading and moving, and it may well be that in the next couple of years they will come through to the UK, and we'll be looking to the UK authorities to take firm action to make sure that this bee killer is eradicated as quickly as possible. You know, we have the channel, and we should be using the channel to make sure that these biohazards don't get into the UK, and if they do get in, they're controlled quickly.
And our poor bees are having such a hard time of it at the moment, aren't they?
Absolutely. You know, they're under threat from all sorts of things, from the loss of wildflower habitats in the countryside, increasing use of pesticides that are toxic to the bees, and really, you know, it's very good that the government's currently working up a national pollinator strategy, which will hopefully protect the bees and the other pollinators and start some real initiatives to get the flowers put back into the countryside. You know, we want bee lines, you know, corridors of wildflowers spreading throughout the countryside. That gives our poor beleaguered pollinators and bees a bit more hope for the future.
I mean, so, as you say, hope for the future for the bees, and these hornets don't help with that, but it's the whole ecosystems, isn't it, that once you introduce another species, it knocks on all the way down the food chain.
Absolutely. I mean, pollination is one of the oldest bits of cooperation on the planet. This is fundamental both to the production of seeds and wildflowers, but also to a lot of the food we eat. You know, 80 to 90% of the crops and the food we eat from plants is only there because of the pollination of these insects, and we take that for granted, despite the fact it's worth over £510 million to British agriculture every year. And it's great the government is taking this initiative to put our pollinators on a better footing in the future, and everyone should pull together and try to make more flowers and gardens in the countryside so there's a better future for our pollinators.
Matt Shardlow, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.